Well, hello again, Trucker Todd here, and today we're going to talk about Roadrunner Freight one more time. I'm not quite at the 90-day mark. I think I'm about a week or 10 days away, but there's been a lot going on. I've been getting a lot of questions, and I want to try to answer some of those. Also, Roadrunner has made some changes, and as a result of watching my videos, and I want to comment about that as well. Now, before we get any deeper, let me say this. I noticed that we're getting close to 90 subscribers. It won't be long till we're 100. I want to thank everybody for watching and subscribing, and if you hadn't done that, go ahead and do that now. Coming up next after this video, I'm going to talk about some of the problems in trucking that I don't believe are in any other industry. One specific that I've experienced this week and many times in the past, that I really think it's how trucking in general shoots itself in the foot. And so make sure you're liked and subscribed. Make sure you're sharing these videos on your social media and with friends or family that are in trucking that you think could benefit from that. And if you have any comments, leave them below. I like to hear what your thoughts are on these subjects when I talk about them. And if you'd like to know more about coming to work at Roadrunner, shoot me an email down below. I'll get you paired up with a recruiter, and then I'll kind of walk with you through the process. If you have any questions, maybe you'd rather ask me than the recruiter, you can. Or if the recruiter tells you something that sounds different than what I've told you, we can discuss that as well. But anyway, let's start with Roadrunner from the beginning. So I called a number. I got a recruiter. He worked from home from Tennessee. Real nice guy. He got me, I don't know, the way the light's hitting my nose, making my nose look weird. But anyway, nothing's wrong with my nose. Anyway, he did a real good job setting me up for Milwaukee, answering all of my questions. I requested an international, so I didn't have a problem with that. And got me to orientation. They had several trucks to choose from. I know in other videos I've heard people say that there's a truck shortage at Roadrunner and it's hard to get a truck. That may have been true in their case. In my case, I did not experience that. There was several trucks to choose from when I got there, all international, but I went to an international dealership expecting an international. Roadrunner also does have Volvos. They are more expensive, and I think in some cases they require down payment or at least some credit. I'm not really sure about the Volvo. I never really asked for one. Also, so that's that. This truck had, I do believe I probably overpaid for it, but you have to remember that there's no interest in there, and it came with an engine and after treatment warranty for 3 years, 300,000 miles. So while I know approximately how much I overpaid, I really don't, because I don't know the value of that warranty specifically, and it's hard to know how much I saved by not having interest on top of that. So anyway, I don't feel like it was a horrible deal. Obviously, anytime you do any of these no money down lease deals, they are going to have a markup on them, and that's just something you should suspect. Okay, so I get there, and they're dispatch, or they're texting me at the same time. So I got there. The hotel was super nice. No complaints about the hotel. I actually have a video about the hotel that you can see. Orientation, I've mentioned in previous videos, was a little discombobulated. The guy had only been there a couple of weeks, and they'd kind of thrown him in there. And he was doing the best he could. Nice guy. I've had to deal with him since then. And I think he's going to be fine. It's just timing. I just caught him at a bad time. Now, saying that, That's one of the changes that these videos have made. Roadrunner has gone back and evaluated their orientation classes, and they're making changes. Now, yesterday I had a guy comment, well, they kiss your butt every time you put out a video. I certainly don't feel that way. Let me tell you what I really feel about Roadrunner regarding the changes they've made. One of them was they've tried to improve orientation. One of them was I had a complaint about not being able to get EFS checks for lumpers at nighttime. Both of those things they've rectified. Now, I don't take that as them kissing my butt. I take that as them feeling like I had a legitimate complaint and trying to improve the company. I think, and I haven't heard them say this is just my belief, but if you ask the average owner-operator over the road where they'd like to lease their truck or where they have their truck leased, they 9 times out of 10 will say Landstar. And I think that Roadrunner would like to take that title away from Landstar. I think Roadrunner would love it if when you're talking to truckers and they say, hey, where would you like to have your truck leased? Roadrunner would like to be the first name that pops out of your head. And so when they hear constructive criticism that makes sense and doesn't cost them a crazy fortune to do, they want to make positive changes when they can. And so I don't get off on a power trip by being able to affect change or anything like that. I just look for ways to make the company better for them and for me, honestly. And so there are still some areas I'd like to see some improvement, and I'll go into those throughout this video. But I got over, as you know, to Lakeside International there in Milwaukee. I actually picked out my first truck. The other 2 guys wanted automatics. The automatics have a larger refrigerator, but no EPU, which is an electric APU. I wanted the EPU because it saves diesel. It can save you $300 or $400 a week in diesel easily, and it's really nice. So the other 2 guys ran to the red trucks, which had the big refrigerator but didn't have the EPU. And I looked at, I think, 3 different white ones. The first one I picked out, went through the process on, got it out there. When I was putting the front license plate on it, I noticed it had a diesel leak in the front cover. And it was going to take several days to fix because they had to order parts and everything. So I worked it out to where I could switch to another truck. So technically in the almost 3 months I've been here, I've had 2 trucks, although I never did one single trip in the first truck. So I spent the majority of the night there. It was like 1 or 2 in the morning when they got done with it. And then I went over to Walmart and spent the night. The next day I got a load. Now, there's a lot of stuff here. First of all, they wanted me to go up into northern Wisconsin, bobtail up there, and get an empty, and then go over to Detroit and, if I remember correctly, pick up a load and then bring it back to Chicago. And I was unable to do that. I told them, I said, hey, the recruiter told me to bring all my stuff. I spent $70 in luggage fees and coming up here, and then I was supposed to have a 2-day orientation, and it ended up being 3 days. And I was getting low in cash. I didn't have they don't pay your tolls here. They don't have a toll transponder yet. I hear they're trying to get them for lease purchase. So I didn't have the money to run those toll roads. There's no telling what it would have cost me to run back and forth across there like that. So they ended up getting me another deal. Trying to remember where I went. But anyway, I got a trailer and started off for California. In that trip, my air conditioner went out. I started having electrical problems. Now, one good thing about Roadrunner is they don't charge you a truck payment the first 2 or 3 weeks. So I wasn't worried about a truck payment at this point and downtime in the shop. but I didn't want to spend a week in a hotel either. So I decided to drive with the air not working out to California, and they give you this guy in the beginning that he's supposed to help you set up your first 2 loads. Well, he dropped the ball. There's no other way to put it. I told him what day I was going to be in Miraloma, California. He said, all right, I'll get you on the board. And he just forgot about me. Didn't get me on the board. So I got out there. It's 100 and something degrees. I have no air conditioning. And if you've never been in a truck, it's different in a truck because the engine's so big, it just blows all that heat back on you. I was worried about damaging electronics inside the truck just from the sheer heat. I was drinking tons and tons of water. But anyway, that's another story. I get out to Miraloma, I deliver, and I'm like, all right, I'm ready for my load to Texas because I was needing to go home to get the rest of my stuff I wasn't able to bring on the airplane. And I thought they could work on my truck while I was at home. That way I wouldn't have a hotel. We looked at hotels in California. One of them was going to be a week before they could even look at me. And the other one said they could look at me the next day, but they had no idea when they could fix me. So I was looking at multiple days in a hotel, and I didn't have the money for it. I was scraping along. So I ended up getting a broker load, what they call a backhaul, back to Dallas, and then a load from Dallas to Lubbock so I could get my truck in the shop. This was right before Labor Day, so I ended up being in the shop for a little bit. Still didn't get everything fixed. The Lubbock International dealer, Roberts International, they dropped the ball too. They didn't even look at my inverter. And then when I mentioned to them, they looked at it, but they didn't fix it. And so I ended up having to go back to Milwaukee again to get the inverter fixed. And something else, I don't remember what else they fixed. But anyway, when I get there to Milwaukee, I had told them it shakes when I'm going up a hill, and I think my motor mounts are bad. Well, no, there's no way. They looked at them. Of course, the motor mounts were bad. I said, I think it needs an alignment because the steers are wearing unevenly, and it's pulling to the right really hard. Well, it needed a little bit of alignment, but we think your tires are fine. So now, fast forward a couple of months, I'm going to have to get steer tires the next 3 or 4 months. And even after they did their alignment, it was pulling. But at that point, I just wanted to be done, so I didn't go back on that anymore. Other than that, they fixed everything pretty well. And so then, now we'll fast forward back. I know I'm jumping around a lot. After I got the truck out of Lubbock, things have been pretty good. But shortly thereafter that, Roadrunner's computers went down. Now, I've heard everything from the computer system crashed to they've been hacked. I know it was very costly for them. I know it hurt them bad. They still moved freight, but they didn't move it to the degree they normally do. And to be honest, I still don't think they've recovered from it. And so, matter of fact, I'm going to pause this video a second because I want to get something and show it to you in a minute. I have done a ton of broker loads, what they call backhauls, more than I've even done the terminal stuff. And a lot of it is because of that 2 weeks when their systems were down. But a lot of it, just to be totally honest, is I've gone to a lot of terminals where there's still not that much freight. There's a lot going to California, and there's a lot going up Washington and that area where the chain laws are. Well, I still haven't made enough to spend $1,000 on chains. Now, before you tell me of Joe's Chain Shop where I can get chains cheaper, Roadrunner sent out, well, it's on their independent contractor website, a deal that shows the chain requirements for each state. And many of the states require double chains. Oh, they're loading me now if you see the truck shaking. Require chains on both duals. So the last set I saw at a truck stop was $200 a set. And so you can run up some money there. And then some states wanted you to carry extra chains. Some states wanted you to carry singles for the trailer. And some states even have requirements of how you got to store the chains. So you probably need the little chain carrier on the side of your truck as well. Now I know somebody's going to message me and argue with that, and I'm not going to argue, but I think we can all agree that it's going to be several $100s for chains, and I just can't do that right now, so I'm mostly running the South. Okay, now while we're on this subject, I mentioned earlier that Roadrunner doesn't cover any tolls. They do have like what I'd call a toll surcharge. If you go up in the Northeast, they kind of give you a little extra to kind of supplement, but it doesn't come close to covering the tolls. It's just a supplement. Now I want to talk about rates. Now, before I do this, I want to say a couple of things. One, any truck driver at any company will always say, I think I need to make more money. That's not what this is. And so with that being said, I want to say, based on what I've seen, I think rates are off here at Roadrunner by about 20%. And I'll explain how I get there. When you're paying basically 100% of the tolls, when you're having to pay for a trailer rental and all the other stuff that's put on there, when you're paying $40 a month for data for this ELD and everything that they require you to pay for, you really need to be making about $1.50 a mile. Now, let's talk about some of the rates here. For example, let me get you one. LA to Wisconsin is $1.05 a mile. Now, if you add the 30 cents on there for the fuel charge, you're at about $1.35. That should really be about $1.50. You've got a lot of hills to climb. Your fuel economy is going to be down. So there's tons of examples of these. Let me get you a couple more real quick. Here we go. Detroit. Well, I found a good one and I lost it. Here we go. Dallas to basically Sacramento, Fresno, 95 cents a mile. Houston to Arizona, 90 cents a mile. There's just a lot of these here. These should be at least 20% higher, so that when you add the fuel surcharge on there, you're at about $1.50 a mile. Here's a good one. Miami to Arizona, 80 cents a mile. Miami to California, 85 cents a mile. Miami to Georgia, 70 cents a mile. Miami to Illinois, 75 cents a mile. Now, granted, a lot of people will tell you Florida's bad. I get it. But, I mean, when you look at competitors, that even the bad companies are paying $1 a mile. And so I just think that these are to be reevaluated. I'm not trying to be negative on Roadrunner, but it is definitely something to look at. Here we go. Commerce, which is LA area, to Idaho, Illinois, 85 cents a mile. Michigan, Minnesota. Minnesota is 85 cents a mile. Missouri, 75 cents a mile. These rates are just way off of what I believe is available in the market. Now, I'm not criticizing the pay. You can make money here, but there is a lot of overhead, and something needs to give. Either the rates need to come up or some of these other expenses need to be covered. And so that's just my opinion on that. Like I said, depending on the area, I think it's somewhere between 17 and 20% off is what I've determined. And so that's my take on that. What else? Sorry, I'm trying to put my permit book back up. I'm going to pause this again. They have made a lot of improvements, as I've mentioned some of them. Um, there's still a big problem with organization, and nobody seems to know what's going on. I spent a lot of time updating people, dragging them along, explaining stuff that they should know, and it does get very frustrating. The other day, coming to Lubbock, I got really frustrated with them just because the lack of organization and common sense sometimes, to be honest. For example, Central Dispatch, which is their night dispatch, and I know what everybody's going to say, night dispatch is bad at every company. But of all the times I've ever called night dispatch, there's only been one time they were ever actually able to help me do anything. And it took them over 2 hours to do it. One time I called them for an EFS check, and after 2 hours they finally got it. Other than that, every time I've ever called them, it's been a total waste of time. 99% of the time they say, "I'll just call your IC coordinator tomorrow." Well, what's the point of them even being there if they can't help me do anything? Or they'll say, "Well, I'll email somebody." Well, everybody's at home in bed. They're not going to get the email till the next morning. So I've experienced a lot of frustration with Central Dispatch, and I don't know. But anyway, I'm not looking for another company. I'm planning to stay here for now, but there's definitely the organization's going to have to get better. I stay stressed out and have trouble sleeping a lot of times just because the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing. There's so many departments. For example, just a second ago, while I was making this video, my fleet coordinator was texting me, asking me when I was going out on a load again. I'm backed in a dock getting loaded now. I don't know how he doesn't know that. Then I got another text message from my IC coordinator. I guess she was updating him, he was updating her. They're texting back and forth, and I don't know how they don't know I'm on a load. I had texted him telling him that I needed to be on the board in Charlotte for Wednesday night. So it's a whole lot of that. I don't know. I don't know if it's new people that just hadn't learned yet, or if it's people that'll get it in time. One thing I can say, everybody here seems to be pretty honest. I haven't ran any deceptive people or people I felt was personal, people that I felt were purposefully trying to screw me over. As far as payroll, I haven't had any issues with payroll until this week. Roadrunner gives you 2 deferred truck payments. I took one this week, and they forgot to put it on my pay. I caught it even before my direct deposit came out, and they fixed it the next morning. Pretty quick. It got fixed. I got it before I got my direct deposit, so I don't even consider that a mistake because of how quick they rectified it. And so I'm pretty happy with payroll. They do work weird hours. I think some of them go home at like 2:30 in the afternoon. And I guess this is true trucking wide and not just Roadrunner wide, but trucking's not an 8 to 5 job. And a lot of these offices, they're working 8 to 5 or 6:30 to 2:30. And the times of the day when you're doing trucking and needing them, nobody's there. And so it would be nice if I don't know what the solution is there. Obviously, they can't be there 24 hours a day, but it can be difficult to get a fast resolution. Usually you've got an email and it's a day or two before you get a solution. But no problems with payroll. They seem to be pretty good. Safety, I want to talk about safety for a second. They have a great safety department here. It's generally one, I don't mention names here, but I'll tell you it's generally one guy or one girl that will answer the phone. They're both really knowledgeable and they're patient. Your first 3 or 4 weeks here, you will have ELD issues constantly. And they're real patient, walking through getting it fixed. And so they're also, let me say this about the safety department. I've been at companies where the safety department was out to get you. They were trying to fire you. It was a gotcha type deal. It's not that way here. These guys could fire you any second they wanted to. They could break your lease any second, but they don't do that. They try to educate, they try to teach, they try to work with you. And so I would give the safety department here really high marks. I think they try real hard to be fair and even-handed and do the right thing. They do want you to run legal. They don't want you cutting corners. They do want you to do a proper pre-trip and post-trip, but at the same time, they treat you with dignity and respect. So I've got a lot of appreciation for the safety department. And upper management. So far, everybody I've talked to in upper management, I really like. There's one, and you've heard other people talk about him. His first initial is B. I've talked to him several times. He's a good guy and an honest guy, and he really wants Roadrunner to become a great company. He's not living on cloud nine. He realizes there's some area that needs improvement, but he is open-minded and willing to hear alternative opinions. And so I've appreciated him and working with him. He's been a big help. So I'm going to wrap this up for now. I may have another video about this later. We'll see how this does and what kind of comments and questions I get regarding this. Like I said, make sure you're liked and subscribed, because the next video I'm not going to talk specifically about Roadrunner, but I'm going to talk about the trucking industry as a whole. A big problem I see that they have that other industries don't have. Even other similar industries like FedEx, UPS, the Postal Service. So you're going to want to see that video. And so don't forget, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. Sorry this one ran a little long. We'll catch you on the next one. Thanks. Bye-bye.